Kerri Crago or do we want to be Kerri Gallagher Crago? What do you
Um,
want me to do? I can do whatever.
I guess it's up to you. Do you want it to be like family, or do you want it to just be like we just know each other and that's how?
I don't have a problem with that. I kind of like that in a way because I think it's
Yeah.
interesting how we both lived in LA at the same time and how like you
Mhm.
knew who I was when you met Josh. I don't know. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah.
How you were
Yeah, we
like,
can try
"Oh,
that.
that's a rare name." You're like, "I know someone named Craigo." And he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, who?" And then you said my name. He's like, "That's my aunt."
I was like, there's no way.
I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was pretty funny. Hello, and welcome to this season of Alter Ego. I am your host, Laura Crago. Let's keep the conversation going. Ooh, I think I jinxed myself because this morning I realized that my allergies actually aren't bothering me as bad. You get to a certain age when you're going to the store and you're excited about getting like allergy medicine or something to that nature. And you're like, wow, I can't wait for this to kick in and like help me out because I'm sneezing about 50 times a day. And this morning I actually had this thought, wow, I haven't really been sneezing a lot lately. And today I've sneezed 3 times, which, yeah, isn't a ton, but it's something when I haven't been sneezing. Anyways, welcome to another episode. I'm really excited about today's episode. And I just wanted to start this off by saying, how many of you have been turning on your furnaces? I went and got my new filter for my furnace, and we are officially in fall. We are there. Time is flying. So, a lot of what Kerri and I talk about today is kind of has that theme to it, a little bit of that theme of, life is short, and if you want anything out of life, you're going to have to also, you can't just be receiving, right? We have to be giving. So that was a lot of today's message, but yeah, it's Saturday. I came in on a Saturday to do this because, her schedule changed a bit and I had to figure it out, and I'm wearing my pumpkin sweatshirt, and today was not a day that I was fixing my hair. Not that you care. If you're listening, you don't care because you can't see my hair right now. It's pulled back. But if you're watching, hi, hello. Um, yeah, just I don't know. I this conversation it really made me sit and think a lot about what I am doing to give back. So I don't know. It's a good question I think for all of us to ask ourselves. There's definitely a huge part that you need to take care of yourself, right? You need to always be replenishing your cup, whatever it is that you're filling up, your cup, your mug, your vintage iced. The 1979 from Vintage, I got to tell you right now, I'm not a huge crazy pumpkin girl. Like when October comes around, I know I just switch topics there really quickly. Just get used to it because that's what I do. But I don't know, something about seeing the pumpkin spice foam. I was like, that sounds really good. I'm going to do that. And it's delicious. Can't remember anything else that's in it, but it's really good. I'm always a triple shot girl. I get oat milk, but if they've got cold foam in there with dairy, I don't care. I'll do it. Thank you, Vintage. Also wanted to give a shout out because Angela, one of the owners, Angela and Peter own Vintage. When I first launched the podcast, she gave me this really cool vintage. Look at this. It's like a vintage speaker. Now the hardware is not inside of it. I know that because we've opened it up, but I don't know. I wanted to give a little shout out to her. How cool is this? I can't put it on any of my shelves behind me because they're plastic, and this thing's pretty hefty. So thank you, Angela, for my vintage speaker. I love Halloween, and notice my background. I've changed it up a little bit. I've got these shelves here. My cousin gave me this. Look at this disco pumpkin that she gave me. How cool is that? One of 3 plants. There's another one up here, and then I've got this little guy right here that I'm managing to keep alive in my office because I have a beautiful window, so they get the sunlight that they need, and when I remember to water them, I do that. I'm just really grateful to be doing what I'm doing. The point of where I started, and then I went down into the woods off some random trail, and now I'm back on the main path again. But uh, I'm one of those people that definitely thinks like you have to give to receive, and I'm trying to do a little bit more of that. So this Saturday, I am the MC for the Geyser Center's annual fashion show, which is a huge event where they raise charity. They have silent auction. There's raffle baskets. There's models. They feature a lot of the stores in town. I'm going to be sitting down with Sammy Roth, who is the current Miss Butler County. She has her title till November, when she will give that to the next Miss Butler County. We have a really wonderful conversation. We're going to have like a little conversation at the show, and then she's going to get us started with the runway, a little runway walk. So I do believe that there are still tickets available, but I'm going to put a link here in the caption. If you're into fashion, if you want to come and maybe, donate some money to possibly win some really amazing baskets. I mean, from all over the county, we've had a lot of really great, medical spas and so many different businesses stepping up to donate baskets, and individuals as well. I am not privy to all of the baskets that are going to be there, but I'll keep you guys informed this week. But yeah, if you don't have any plans on Saturday, it's a Butler Country Club. I believe there are still some tickets available. Check out the link, and going to have a conversation with Kerri Gallagher Crago, which as of yesterday, when this episode drops, is their 1 year anniversary exactly. They got married on Friday the 13th. How cool is that? That just makes her even cooler than she already was. But her story as she's a nurse by trade. This one goes out to the nurses, to the medical professionals, especially the people that are going to, these disaster areas that we are facing right now in our country, who are going to help those who really need the help. And it's amazing that we live in a country where we have that right here. So thank you to everyone who's showing up, the firefighters, the police officers, the, first responders, EMS, nurses, doctors, everyone, volunteers. Just thank you for everything that you do. And I just want to encourage all of you to see how you can make a difference in your community. So I'm looking into a few things that I want to start getting involved with. Stay tuned. This episode is brought to you by R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for your support on our first season of the Alter Ego podcast. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. For a long time, I suffered with depression and anxiety. I had tried therapy before, but struggled finding a therapist I connected with until I found BetterHelp. That's why I am so excited to share BetterHelp's mission to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. Because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online. Remote therapy sessions, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. Click the link in description and receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And by clicking that link, you support this channel. Plus, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I was struggling for a long time, and BetterHelp was where I found my therapist, Whitney, who I still see weekly for almost 2 years now. So, if you're struggling like I was, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in description or go to betterhelp.com/alterego. That's betterhelp.com/alterego. There's no better time than now to start your mental health journey. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. Capital Sacre, I don't know how to say it.
Hospital Sacre-Cœur.
Sacre-Cœur, okay.
The doc in charge, Rob, who adopted a son from there, put it all together with the organization Feed Haiti.
Okay. Is that kind of how that started? Because he adopted a child from Haiti, and then you all worked together?
Yeah. He went to Haiti the first time after the earthquake in 2010, when that devastating earthquake happened over there, and he happened to be over there volunteering. There's orphanages over there, just a lot of all in all, devastation. And he happened to come across him in a orphan shelter, and they kind of got connected. Sister Anne, who was really like the village like support system, she would be the one who, when we first like land over there and we walk through the town, like she'll be the one to tell you like what families really need help. Like everyone needs help over there, right? But there are some that are better off than others. And so she always was looking out for everyone in the town to tell you, you know, really where to dump your resources and where, you know, they can have some, but they don't need it all. Like these are the people that really need it. And so she knew that Luke, now Rob's son, had lost both of his parents in the earthquake and was now an orphan. And so she connected the two of them.
Oh, wow.
And it took, I think, about 5 years to get him here for the whole adoption process.
Yeah, I've heard that it can be a little tricky, especially with other countries, because you're working with visas and I don't know, is there also requirements as far as like immunizations when they're coming into the United States or?
Yeah, yeah, there's that. And I think there's just everything between like the government over there is so broken and impossible really to deal with, right? That's Haiti's biggest problem is their government. And so when you're working through all of that, it is extremely challenging.
So I'm going to say Kerri Gallagher, but as of tomorrow, it'll be exactly a year that you've been married into the Crago family. So Kerri Crago on the podcast. This is not a biased conversation because she's family. It's just because I can say baddie. That's all I can say on here. She's just someone to me that's always stood out from the moment I met her. And I think Josh is really lucky to have met you, and you two together are like a force to be reckoned with, like in the, in the health world. I mean, he's a pharmacist. You did meet at the Children's Hospital, right? Were you working together? Yes. Okay. And at that time you were an ER nurse, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just, tell us a little bit about yourself. And she's from Philadelphia too. So yes, everybody, she's a Phillies fan and I still love her. So there's actually Phillies flag. There's a Phillies from our sports editor, Jake, is a Phillies fan.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm surprised you guys let him do that with, being based in Pittsburgh.
I was like, hey, let's bring it out. I was like, talk about it. I want you to,
shake out.
Let's shake things up a bit.
As he is quite familiar with, you experience heartbreak at a very young age, being a Phillies fan and an Eagles fan and Flyers and all of them. So, you're well versed in dealing with your emotions by age 5.
Yeah, I think the night before the wedding, you guys were out watching. You were watching a baseball game, weren't you?
That was Game 5 against the Atlanta Braves. We won, only to again further experience heartbreak. But
that was a good win the night before your wedding.
Oh, it was so much fun. It actually was the reason I could not get out of bed on time the next morning for my wedding.
I was like, there's some Alka-Seltzer, there's Tums in that little box you got there. So
yeah, I'm not sure anything could save me at that time.
Oh, you were doing all the electrolytes, everything.
I tried it all.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but you rallied and you looked gorgeous. So it all came together.
Thank you. There's a lot that a good makeup artist and a good hairstylist can do.
Isn't that the truth?
That is the real talent in this world.
Yes. As today, we were both like, we're both going to have our hair wet and up in clips because it's Saturday. So, yeah.
Yes. I was not anticipating this to be on camera. So,
yeah, as we talked on the phone, you're like, is this? I said, yes. And you're like, oh, I got to take a shower. I was like, I'm sorry. But my hair will be up in a clip too. So,
I'm going to need more time, was basically what came out of my mouth.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, just tell us a little bit more about your background. I jumped in there with the Philly thing.
Yeah, sure. So I am a nurse by trade. I have been a nurse since 2014. Wow, 10 years. Look at that. Time flies. Um, I started in labor and delivery, and then I shifted my focus into pediatrics, and I worked on the neurology unit and then in the emergency department where I met your nephew. But from there, I then got into organ donation, and I was an organ recovery coordinator. So, really working closely with transplant surgeons and our organ placement team and getting those organs transplanted all across the state of Maryland, but also US wide. So, and now I am in this very new and exciting field for rare disease clinical trials. So, our old division chief of the emergency department and the division chief for genetics kind of, had nothing better to do during COVID than to drum up this business plan of, okay, the academic system is so overburdened in hospitals. There was still to this day, there's a lot of patients, not a lot of beds. So, how do you still effectively try to get drugs to market through these clinical trials when your hospital systems are so overburdened? And the clinical staff that does work in these hospitals has to split themselves between like their clinic time and then patients that, need to be seen and need consults right then. So we broke off, and I have been living that startup life for about a year and a half. It's really a unique field in that, you're kind of learning so much. You're really, what we call it is you're building the plane while trying to fly it.
Oh, wow.
So that's definitely, but I do think that why our president and I have fallen so easily into, this startup life and being flexible is because of all of our time volunteering in Haiti together, right? Like you really need to be flexible and be able to handle whatever comes up in that current moment in that time. No day is the same, no hour is the same. You can have a very quiet, easy few days, and then you can have a really bad open fire or a really bad car accident, and you just need to take it and handle it how you can.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for us, coming from a very regiment hospital based system to branching out into a startup where you're really kind of calling your own shots and making it work however you can, it kind of falls in line with, when you're in a third world country and trying to do the best of everything you have at your fingertips.
Yeah. And I mean, and the fact that you've spent, how many times have you gone to Haiti? How many trips have you taken over there?
I have taken, I would say about 10, 10 to 12. There was a point in time that I was going every other month, really, whenever I could, to get over there. And then unfortunately, once kind of COVID hit and travel kind of slowed down, as well as the unrest that I'm sure everyone has seen on the news there, which ironically, where we are located, and this is what I've told people multiple times, the unrest, you never know what's going on when you're there. I have felt safer in Milo, Haiti, than I have felt walking my dog in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Like I think it's just another thing to keep in mind when you are watching, media and news coverage, just keeping in mind that there always are, other versions, or there's three sides to every story, right? Like
Yeah.
what's actually going on, what's being portrayed, and then what the other person's saying.
Yeah.
So it's just, and that's where kind of we went last January, maybe it was February, and then we went again in March, right before it got not so great again. And, multiple, our CEO and some of our investors were like, hey, we'd really love you guys not to go. And it was kind of like hey, thanks for the advice. We're still going. Because I just don't think that people understand that they're not, yes, kidnappings happen and, you know, ransoms happen. And, but I don't think people really understand what it's like when you're over there. And no one's ever going to understand it until you are over there on the ground.
Well,
And I've kind of given up trying to get people to understand that. And I've just kind of, you know, you can have your opinion and that's fine. If you are ever interested in joining and coming along, great, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to carry on with my day.
well, I that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because this month I want to do, women focused featured episodes. And I'd been sitting for a while and I was like, I need to talk to Kerri because that's such a brave thing for you to do. I mean, and it's true. You have the experience. You've been there firsthand. You can speak to it. And, to your point, it's like there's so many different sides to this story. But at the end of the day, people need help, right? They need people like you who are going to step up, who are going to show up. And I just think it's such a remarkable thing. And I guess, I don't know, have you ever thought about, is there anywhere else that you would want to go to do anything like that? I mean, you hear of countries where a lot of times children specifically will be born with like whether certain like deformities or defects or, there's cleft lips. That's just one example,
Yeah.
I'm sure of like, but crazy things where like their intestines are on the outside of their body, like just wild things you hear. And I have talked to people who have said, they've always wanted to go to be a part of those types of surgeries. So when you are there, you're doing those types of things, aren't you, though? Like you're also part of like surgeries and stuff like that. Can
Yeah,
you
we
talk about
wear
any of
many
those?
hats while we are there. And it's also really kind of refreshing that, you know, once the town knows that we are coming, usually like the hospital courtyard outside, it's just a little gated area right outside of the hospital. People will begin to line up like weeks in advance and they will wait. And we have a very clear, you know, when we get in there, we kind of run the list of how many people are waiting. And we start being very transparent is that we are going to try to get to all of you. There's a very good chance, like there are a lot of you here and there's a handful of us. And, you know, when you're upfront and honest and transparent about that, there's disappointment, but there's no one, you know, getting ready to jump down your throat and, you know, kind of curse you out. Kind of what I've experienced working in, you know, level 1 inner city emergency departments to where, you know, everyone does expect that kind of right there, right now mentality.
Well,
But going back to your question, I would absolutely, you know, I'm not tied to only ever going to Haiti. I think it's just been, you know, I've been there so many times and you establish these relationships. And we're not just investing in the community, we're also investing in the employees there. So there have been many times where I've gone over just to teach education classes because say like I don't have a surgeon available or I don't have an emergency physician, I don't have a doctor on my team that has that time to go. I've gone over and just taught, you know, like basic life support or emergency triage or any classes like that because if I think with a lot of these volunteer based, you know, corporations that are out there, that everyone absolutely always has, you know, the main mission to help as many people as you can at hand. But I think what people need to keep in mind of is just showing up and doing everything you can for everyone for 7 days in a row and then going away and never coming back. It's not a sustainable model, right? If you go there, make a connection with the staff that are there, you kind of teach them what you know and do that knowledge transfer and really bring them up to state, like up to speed on, you know, the new gold standard of care or different methods and doing different procedures that maybe they're not familiar with. But the more that you invest in the staff that's there, the better their outcomes are going to be. And then the better that they can continue to serve that community while you're not there. Because again, going there, doing everything you can for 7 days, great. Yes, they are very appreciative of that. But what happens when you leave? They revert right back to what they've been doing. And how can you blame them? It's their country. It's what they know. They were
Yeah.
doing this before we got there, and they're going to continue to do it this way when we leave, unless you really establish and make those connections with staff and with physicians and nurses and techs and everyone that is over there providing that care to people day in and day out.
Yeah, that's a really important point because yeah, you do hear about that where people are like, "Oh, we're going to take this trip, we're going to help this village or whatever it is," and they go for a week and then they leave. And to your point, it's like that's not sustainable. So I know you had said when you first started going, you were going quite frequently. And then COVID obviously switched that out and stuff. So it sounds to me like obviously this program that was developed is something that's just always continuing on. So is there, obviously there's room for people to go. So with something like that, if I can ask, like whatever you're comfortable saying, and I can edit this too. So if there's anything that you're like, I don't want to say that, then I just cut it out. But is this something like you take time off of work to go, right? You take your own personal time.
Yeah.
You buy your plane ticket there, right? You
Yes.
pay for all of that stuff. So, working in the medical field, schooling's not cheap to go to school for what you and especially what Josh has gone for, and you're both paying for that. But you get into a field where you're able to, take trips like that and stuff. So I think it's important for people to know that, but I like it to come from you. You know what I mean? However you want to kind of say that. So let me think here. So these trips, you're taking your own personal time off of work. So essentially like probably vacation time, right? You're paying for your flight, everything to get there, to stay there, you're paying, correct?
Yes. So it's through the hospital. There's a medical compound, we call it, on site. So we do have, that's who hosts us. It's not like there's a hotel. That doesn't like really exist there.
Yeah.
So the hospital, there's a place for us to stay. We do pay for that. It's really, lodging over there is not that expensive. And the hospital, the staff, they cook 3 meals for us. I think, the biggest surprise to everyone and what I love to see people is when we do have new people on the trips, they'll bring like, we have a ton of medical supplies with us, any like donations that we were able to collect or anything that people have purchased to bring over. And then inevitably you can always spot the new person on the trip out because they'll have this like very large personal bag with them. And you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to eat? And so I love to watch people, have these very low expectations for like, food, water, all of those. I came back from my first trip and I was like, I ate better there than I did here. Because it's just the community comes together. They make 3 square meals a day, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the food is phenomenal. And it's all like,
It's probably all homemade and like,
well, yeah. It is really phenomenal there. And they really just appreciate, new faces and getting to talk to people and getting to know them.
yeah.
So that's really refreshing. But, I think that, you make an interesting point when you reiterate that, like, yes, I pay my own way there and I take my own time of work off to go there. And believe it or not, that has been a big deterrent for a lot of people. While I totally understand, like, your paid time off, like we work hard for that. I don't expect you to, want to use, a week of paid time off all the time to go over there if it's just not your thing. But what I will say is if, you go through life always expecting something in return or expecting things to be provided for you, then I think that you will always be disappointed. If you go into something like, where you're there to do good, but you're expecting something in return, then yeah, there's going to be disappointments for you.
I've been waiting. The minute you said that, I was like, I have to hit the applause button because I want to say something I can't say. I want to be like, yeah. Yeah. it's about humanity, right? Like I feel like that's why you and I also connect very well, because I subscribe to that also, because this is a side point. I've had people say that to me when I had a conversation with someone about adoption, for instance, when I
Mhm.
was looking into that, and they said, "Well, just do me a favor," and that's how they started. I don't even remember who it was that said it to me, because that's how much I've been like, I don't know who it was because it doesn't matter. Um, they started the statement with, "Do me a favor, at least adopt a child that's from America," and I was like, "Excuse me? First of all, that's not your choice. Second of all, adoption in itself is just like a really expensive,
Yeah.
um, I don't even want to say thing, it's so much
Yeah.
more than that, a choice. So I'm going to go ahead and do it however way I'd like to. And
Right.
I've always thought too, like, yeah, what if I went to another country? Like, your boss, for instance, I guess I'll say boss, but who started this, like that was his experience. I mean, he has a child now because of this experience, and there's this story and this connection, and it's a human being, it's a human life. So I often think people sometimes do that too, right? With it's like we're all able to choose where we put our, I'm donating to whatever I can donate, whatever little bit I can for FEMA right now with what's going on in Florida, right? Yes, I do that, but I also want to help out in other countries. Like, so I just think it's such a good point that you make, that, if we expect things in life, right, it needs to be full circle. Like, that's just kind of how life is. So if you're not going to get, how are you going to receive?
And I think it's also very different. We live in a very privileged country, and that is absolutely not to take away from what is going on in North Carolina, parts of Tennessee, and Florida right now, given the current state of events. Not at all. But where we differ from, countries like Haiti or very underserved, they don't have government help. They don't have government resources. They don't have anyone deploying teams to them. They don't have that. Their tax dollars don't go to that.
Mm-hmm.
And, take it however you want. Sure,
Yeah.
every organization that is going to provide help is going to have flaws. It's not going to be run perfectly and seamlessly. But when you find an organization that has no kinks and, you know, does things perfectly, everyone's got a critic. Everyone's
Oh
going to have
yeah.
something to say, and you're never going to be able to do it as well as the people that sit behind the screens from the comfort of their own homes, with electricity and running water, and saying what FEMA or the Red Cross should be doing. It's never going to happen. And
No.
so I don't even engage in those conversations.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely, heartbreaking to see, the devastation that has gone down from the recent hurricanes
Mm-hmm.
and the response times and, the resources and everything that's going on there. But, I also want to remind people that we live in a country that does have these large organizations that can respond to things like this.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who've put their life on the lines, who've traveled from other states. But that's the
Yeah.
same point as like what you've done, right? To me, it's all in the same. Like when people need help, if you can help, like be a helper. That was something that Mr. Rogers said, that look for the helpers. I think that was like one of his quotes. It was like, whenever there's a time of crisis or whatever, look for the helpers. And I know that you and your husband, so weird saying that because he's my nephew. So sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, my nephew's married. My nephews are married, and I'm still single. Still single, guys. No, that's not what this is about. But you also make a point to work really, really, really hard so you can take time for yourselves and go take vacations to recharge, because that's a huge thing in this field as well. So I know what you do to take care of yourself, like mentally, physically, but just tell a little bit about, like, especially what we've talked about recently is like how diligent you are and like what time you go to bed. You get up like you're
I love an early bedtime. I mean, my husband, really not enjoy going to bed at 8 or 9 p.m. It might come as a surprise to him when I'm like, hey, I'm going to bed. But for me, like, if you don't take care of yourself, how are you supposed to take care of others? And, pour, you can't, that people will tell you until they're blue in the face, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so, if the rest of, sometimes self-care can be seen as selfish. And that's, again, everyone can say what they want, have your own opinions. Personally, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's not going to affect me. I am very dedicated.
That's what I love about you.
Like, I don't really care because I will give it right back. I am very dedicated to, my own self-care, love going to sleep. I, take myself to workout classes at least 4 times a week. Again, it's as much as, sometimes when my alarm goes off, at 5 in the morning, I'm like, wow, I would actually give anything to pay late fee right now for this class. But kind of changing your mindset to, I get to work out. So let's get up and get clothes on and just get in the car, because once you're in the car, the hardest part is getting there, what everyone says.
Yep.
But it's true. And I think, working in the emergency room and, seeing life altering accidents and diagnosis that people receive, and in the blink of an eye, their life is completely changed. And so I think for me, it's keeping that in mind, very well knowing, hey, I could die tomorrow. And so I'm going to do what I want today and how I want. And that's probably where Josh and my husband and I differ a little, is he is much more reserved and I'm much more like, this could be the last time. So let's just do it.
Yeah.
And he is very much more, that's probably that critical care pharmacy mind. That's taking a minute to pause, assess the risk and, outweigh the good, the bad. And then I'm just like, well, why think more about it? Right. I came from emergency medicine where it's I need a decision and I need a decision now. And I'm like, yep, we're doing it.
Yep.
That changed my mind.
Happening.
Yeah.
You're online. You're book the Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's done.
Oops.
But the balance that you're able to keep is just really important for people to remember. It's the same as, when you say about even just taking time off for yourself and stuff, working out is the same thing, right? You're in a very high demand job. I think physically as well, physically there were times where I'd be talking to you, you're like, oh, I've got to drive 2 hours. I have to go get, when you were doing the organ donation specifically, when you were that coordinator, there was a lot of you in your car. You're like, I got to get here and then I got to get here. And that's a lot. Physically, that can be a lot. Emotionally, that I know had to just be, because you were in on do they call them harvesting surgeries? Is that what they're called?
We call it procurement.
Procurement. Okay.
Organ procurements and recoveries. We would, my job as a coordinator is we followed the patient from time of accident through whether it was brain death testing or the family has decided to make the decision to withdraw. And so we always remained in the background of, we were aware of the patient's, condition. We would keep an eye on their labs, because obviously as someone is, actively dying and their body is shutting down, at times, their organs are going to stop working. And ultimately that is what will, be the way that they go.
Yeah.
However, for those patients that maybe it just was an isolated head injury, we would do brain death testing in every state. And every hospital has their own, different protocols and how many times you do the testing and what their standard of brain death testing is, whether it's, a cerebral flow study or if it's a neuro assessment, it's very in-depth and in detail. And then once the patient was either declared or the family is making the decision to withdraw care is when we would initiate. We would never initiate conversation, if the family was still very hopeful of a recovery. Because that's never going to go over well, right?
Of course. Yeah. Well, I mean,
That was it's very, emotionally taxing, physically demanding. But I think it also gave me a very like different outlook on life and to be like extremely appreciative of really every day.
yeah.
Because you really never know what is going to happen.
I don't know. I just commend you. When you told me you were doing that, I was like, you're a tough cookie. I've always thought that you were a tough cookie, but there needs to be a new term for what you do. Like you just, I don't know. You've always been like that. And you're good with like
Yeah, I mean, I
getting
think
me straight.
junkie that you slide that.
Wait, say
I
that
mean,
again.
I think I said, you can also add in adrenaline junkie. I think that also
Yeah.
plays a part in it. But I mean, if you think about it, there's a certain personality for every, job out there. Like I could never put together and, a podcast and sit down and, really get people to open up to me, in all aspects of their life. Medical, super different. I can absolutely tell you what's going on and we can connect on that level. And I can tell you, we're here to do everything for you. And, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. But that's just a very small, like niche part of, connecting to people.
Yeah.
So I think that it's different for everyone.
Well, what's hard about your job too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever you are, dealing with patients like in tough situations, you have to keep your emotions like completely like they're aside. It's almost this like I don't know how we want to say like empathy, sympathy, right? Like you have empathy for them. I don't know if empathy is the word I'm looking for, but sympathy is sympathy when you would get like emotional with them. Does that make sense? I don't know if I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but you wouldn't start crying in the room with them to exacerbate the emotions that they're already feeling, right? You have to like hold that in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
it
mean,
definitely takes a very special person like
that
yourself.
helps no one. Like if we're both crying, then
Okay. Yeah.
how's anyone going to get anything across? But there
Yeah.
have definitely been times where like, especially working in a pediatric emergency department after a pretty crappy trauma or case, to where you're done talking with the family and you take a breath outside and just kind of let it out. Or I think a lot of people in this field get very good at compartmentalizing, which isn't great because you just stuff it down until
Yeah.
one day it kind of like all boils over. But then once it boils over and you get it all out, you feel real good, and then you go back to shoving it all down.
Yeah. 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 I guess we know people that do that.
I mean, there's definitely some therapist that's going to be listening to it, be like, "Hey, can you give me her number?" That's not the best thing to do.
But I think that's also why you are so physically active. So
Mhm.
on top of like your, consistent working out, taking the classes, you also, I mean, you love running and you've
Yeah.
done quite a few. So at Disney, because you love Disney, and I saw something at Sam's Club yesterday and I thought of you and I was like, I feel like I need to buy that, but I don't know if she'd want it. But it's a box. It's only like
Uh-huh.
$17 of all these different like Halloween like Mickey Mouse ears.
Years, I saw those
Yeah.
too.
You did? I was like, I feel like Kerri
They're
needs
so cute.
those. Like she needs them. But
I
how many of those
Yeah.
have you done? And a little bit more detail about those.
So I have been doing those since 2018, like the Disney ones themselves. I've done a bunch of other marathons, like the rock and roll series that goes everywhere. I just feel like it's fun to do. It's like an excuse to travel. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I signed up for this race. I gotta go.
It's in Florida or it's in
Oh,
California
yeah,
or yeah.
right. It's in San Diego.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh.
But I got so involved with the Run Disney events through actually one of the pediatric emergency physicians that I work closely with. He's been doing them for forever. I think that was like what his bachelor party was. Like they went to Disney to like run a race.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
but that's really how I got so involved in them because working in pediatrics for so long, I mean, It is really nice to go back to Disney and kind of you really do leave like your age and your worries and anything like that at kind of at the door or at the airport really. And then you just kind of get to
Oh,
be a kid again and really forget about all that is going on. And so, you'll see like all of those memes out there about Disney adults. No, I'm not dressing up like Mickey Mouse to like go to these parks. Like I'm going there to feel like I'm a kid again.
yeah.
I'm gonna eat cotton candy, I'm gonna eat a hot dog, and I'm gonna ride some great
Churros.
rides. I'm gonna get a Mickey pretzel, and it's gonna be great. And it's also like a theme park that you can drink in. Sign me up.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Uh,
My favorite was having the cotton candy and the margarita at the same time.
yeah, exactly. Balance.
Yeah. Sure.
But
Yeah.
there's also a lot of charities that you can sign up to run for, and so all the money that you fundraise, there is a bunch out there. If anyone is ever interested in doing them, you can find them on the Run Disney Events page. You can look up all of like their volunteer charity organizations are on there as well, and you can just pick one. And it's also a really easy way, like an umbrella, to get into running. A lot of people out there are like not interested. They're like, oh, I could never do that. I'm like, but if it's through an amusement park, like when else can you run down Main Street at like 5 o'clock in the morning when it's empty? It's such a cool way to like see the behind the scenes of Disney too.
Yeah. I love that. And they're usually, are they like 5Ks, 10Ks? How?
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
like 5Ks, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathon, full marathon, and they're like over a weekend. So like it would start on a Thursday, 5K, Friday, 10K, Saturday half, Sunday full. And you don't have to do all of them. It's just most of the time we sign up for all of them because like, oh, we're going to be there anyway. Why wouldn't we just
Yeah.
do them all?
Okay. What?
Go big or go home mentality.
Yeah. I mean, and then you just put those leg compression things on and just start getting to the
Yeah.
recovery side of that. I can't imagine.
Or like, because the races start, I think we set our alarms for like 2:30 in the morning because for how long it takes to like, even if you're staying on property, like to get to the start line.
Mhm.
And then, you're back to the resort by like 7 a.m. And so like no one's day is begun yet. And you have by this time already ran like a 5K, 10K, half marathon, whatever it is that you ran. And then it's like, yeah, now I'm going to go walk around the park all day for 20,000 more additional steps. So usually like by 6 p.m. we're like hobbling over, or we always
Yes.
joke about like needing a wheelchair.
Well, unless you've ridden in a wheelchair at Disney like I have, then you don't actually want a wheelchair. Because when people see
Yeah.
you being pushed through the park in a wheelchair with your head in your hands, you're like, this is embarrassing. But it happened. And
Yeah.
and
So,
I don't do so well on any stomach drop rides.
yeah.
We'll just leave that there for you. Let's just say I ended up in a complete Minnie Mouse outfit because I had to buy all new clothes.
It was a memory.
Oh, it was a memory, all right. I rallied. I mean, my friend he took me there for my birthday. This was when I lived in LA, and we did California Adventure and the park. And then it got to the point where I
Yeah.
was like, I mean, I finally was well enough to do It's a Small World, and if you've been on that ride, that's just like a lazy river ride on a boat. And I was like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
We're okay now. I can get on something
Yeah.
that moves. But there was a moment where
It
I
was
thought
real
I was
dicey.
I thought I was going to be okay, and I was on the ride, and then I was like, nope, this
Not
isn't okay. This is not going to end well. And it didn't. But there's a memory. I actually got a voucher. Some of the one of the things about Disney too is the people that work there are so great. And my friend made me wear a button that said it was my birthday. Meanwhile, I'm like, what was I, 37 or something? Do you know what I mean? I was like, I'm wearing a button that says it's my birthday, but I look cute. Like I had a really cute outfit on until I didn't have a cute outfit on. Anyways, these women saw us shopping, and my friend's like, well, she got a little sick on one of the rides, and we're just trying to get her a new outfit, so I can manage the rest of the day. And they found us as we were leaving the store. We found a shirt there, but we couldn't find bottoms yet, and gave me a voucher so that
Oh,
whatever else I needed was like taken care of.
that's so nice.
And it was just the nicest thing. And I just thought these two young girls who were working like as cashiers at the store just thought to, and the fact that they do that, I just think is really cool. So I just wanted to say, like, I thought it was really awesome. Yeah.
For everyone, like families, all of that, there's always like a little bit of, magic that goes a long way. Our food packathon. So kind of as I talked about, we were systemly like going to Haiti as frequently as we can. But now just, our trips have scaled back some. And so usually when our trips scale back, we try to see what else we can do to still provide support from afar. And so we will be hosting a food packathon. And I think I sent you like the flyer for it. If not, I can send it to you in an email. It will be we'll be setting up shop in Washington, D.C. I think it's May. Is it May 5th?
It was May 3rd. It was a Saturday.
May 3rd. It's a Saturday, yes. And it's kind of an all-day affair thing to where we have it in 2-hour increments of, packing as many meals as we can. I think our goal is 200,000 meals. And so before May 3rd, we are trying to raise $80,000 just to get that amount of food shipped to us so that we can kind of pack it up. And it's really fun. It's a great way, to meet people, to get involved. And we kind of turned it into a game. So like last year, was it last year that we did it? I think it was last year. When we did it, we turned it into the 8 to 10 a.m. slot, got 320 meals. How many can we do from the noon to 2 o'clock? So it was really fun. It's a long day, but it's really nice to see and meet a bunch of strangers that are willing to give up time of their weekend just to help other people.
Yeah. Well, I already said I'm coming, so.
We are very much looking forward to having you.
Yes, I will be there. We're only in October, but
it's only October.
Yeah, but time is flying. So no, I think that's really remarkable, and that you continue to be a part of that. Like you said, it's not sustainable unless you continue to make it something that you're doing. And I'll put, if you can give me information to include here for anyone who might be interested in going on one of these trips. Now, the only other question I had about that was, obviously when you go, you are specifically going for medical care, correct? So you typically are looking for people who have some sort of licensing and whatnot. But are there ever trips where you have someone that goes, that can be helpful in a different capacity, if they don't have?
We have had volunteers come for kind of child life to provide support in that way. I know at least the trips that I go on are very medical based, but for those looking to get involved in other ways, you can always look up Hospital Sacre Coeur in Malo, Haiti. They're also under Holy Name Hospital, which is based in New Jersey. So they do have U.S. ties here because we're also able to, get supplies to Holy Name, and they help us get it over. So there's many different ways to be involved.
Well, thank you so much for taking time with me. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Ego. Join me every Monday for a new episode, and be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram at Alter Ego Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.